Past players, past legends, past legends.
Of 84, it was a fantastic grand final, but it was the lead-in.
Yes,
we were down against Central.
Centrals, yeah, 3 goals at the 18-minute mark of the last quarter.
Glenelg, I think
we were
really
down, and they kicked
Yeah.
Glenelg had kicked 2-14 at one stage in that game as well. So we got out it. We beat South pretty convincingly in the elimination, and then we were certainly struggling against Centrals. And here's one for you out of this, KT. And I was probably showing that I was a bit naive then. So a good mate was playing in an indoor cricket game, and I went along to watch him. He's a Centrals man. He says, I want to go back to Elizabeth. And we were around the corner. So, I'll come with you. Yep. And I walk in not thinking anything of it, that I had my Norwood jumper on. And walk in, and the Centrals guys had gone, mate, you've got a bit of guts, or you're crazy to have that on. And I said, probably a little bit of both, mate. And within 10 minutes, it was fine. Wilbur Wilson played the spoons that night. It is still one of the best things I've ever seen. It was incredible.
Yep. Really?
So out of that. Of course.
Yeah. Wow.
So 84.
Yeah, well, you obviously had to, sort of tread the tightrope very, very delicately, but you find yourself in the finals. And what was the thought when you were confirmed, obviously, in 5th spot there? What was the thought from Barmy and the team's point of view as to how you approached the final series?
Well, it was always we were very much in a game by game mindset at this stage, because we're having to win one every. But we'd beaten South in the last minor round game, and then had to back up. So we were very confident about that one, and we thought as if we could get that going, it'd be okay. But what I think defined the mindset of the team at that stage was we felt we could win from anywhere, and because we'd been doing it, and there's nothing like practicing winning, and I felt as if we weren't overconfident. We just felt like we could stay in games and keep giving ourselves a chance, and it turned out to be very, pretty handy. I don't know that we were a great team. We had some really, really good players, but it wasn't the sort of year where we ever felt like we were one of the really serious contenders. I didn't feel we were just in survival mode all year, and even in that grand final, we were the way the underdog. They were overwhelming favourites. They were, again, people were reflecting on this Port Adelaide side as one of the best, and we never had an opportunity to feel comfortable in that year.
In terms of that grand final, obviously your mark is spoken about, in reverence, as the reverence it should be. Gutsy, courageous mark, running the other way, marking it in front of John Harvey, I reckon, and then passing to Aishi.
The delivery to Aishi was unbelievable.
We still give Aishi shit because we reckon he deliberately missed that because he didn't want to see the mark 8 million times.
Yes.
But then, in all seriousness, the one which probably doesn't get as much credit as it should, because your mark gets all the credit, is the goal you kick in the last quarter is actually is actually better footy than the mark, because Aishi's run down 100 metre. We're all up in that outer. We're all sitting in that outer. We're waving him on. The handball over the top. You go long. Greg Thomas roves it, crumbed it well from the spoil, but the handball to you wasn't great. It was a poor handball. It was behind your back, and you take that and one more step, kick the goal. It is an incredible goal, which is probably really never received as much, because it was you're taking the mark of the day. They're probably not going to give the same guy the mark of the day and the goal of the day, where really it was.
I think it was for some reason we seemed to open up that laneway in that last quarter.
Yeah, that's fair.
We were able to go down that wing a couple of times open, and I just remember being so fatigued at that stage of the game that everything was hard work, and so you trying to push yourself to the next contest and keep going, like having kicked the ball.
Yeah, well, you certainly did. Yeah,
you keep going. It wasn't easy, and clearly the goal was just instinctive. There was no real thought process about it, but you're right. And Aishi, he he took it from the back pocket, and he'd had a battle all day with Harvey.
Harvey had been hard on him.
Really hard. Yep. So it was probably about the first time that he'd broken out.
Good shepherd. Good shepherd by Danny Jenkins on Greg Anderson. Yeah, as well.
That's right. So it was again. You're right. It's one of those big moments. But wasn't that game special for so many of those things? All the balm moments
Evans,
early on. The anthem. Yeah.
While I've got you here, mate, we've asked a couple of our other guests that obviously participated in arguably my favourite grand final, but we've asked them what you all thought about what was happening down in the square there as players.
Yeah, well, I was in the middle.
Yeah.
And because you at that stage, the game, you used to go into your positions, and she was singing the anthem, and the crowd was just electric, and I'm thinking, she's not that good, right? So, what are they going on about? And then Hawley takes off down to the square, and everyone just chases him down. But and then it was on, and at that moment you could feel, because there was a lot of free kicks paid.
Yes.
Porto may have lost their cool a little bit.
Yeah, they did. We sucked them in
5 minutes. And so there was a lot of very vigorous tackling and missing, and all that sort of stuff. So it felt like that first 15 minutes, it was just on for young and old, and it set the tone.
But we're watching, as supporters, we're watching, and we're going, now this is Craig Baum. It is Neil's brother.
Yeah.
Is he going to do a Jeff Southby a thing? And the funny bit, the other best bit about that, the camera spans to Barmy, and Barmy's just pissing himself laughing, and there really wasn't that much in it. And it turned out, it then came out that it was Stazza and Greg Nicholson's idea that you could suck him in, and it worked. There was no doubt about that, because he lost the plot. He gave away another free kick as well after that. So, it worked. And let's be honest, Craig knew himself, hey, Tim Evans is a better player than me. I'm in trouble here, and it worked. So, yeah.
Well, he played it beautifully, because part of the genius of it was that he kept relatively composed.
Yes.
He was chirpy, but the threat of something happening was on Tim's mind for sure.
No doubt about that.
And so, because it always looked like it could. But Craig, to his credit, was largely pretty controlled.
Yeah.
So it was incredible how well that game has stood the test of time.
I know, because I'm a Nord supporter in '84, but I've always said the '73 and '84 grand finals are the two. The Glenelg North game with Cornsy's mark and Bob Hammond arguably being best on ground, despite the fact the opposition kicked 21 goals. That was an incredible game as well. And I've always said, watching that game again, because I was only 10 then, and I do remember it was a good game, but it was, as I've got older and watched again, I thought, shit, that was a bloody good game. So was 84.
So 84, obviously, we won the flag from 5th. You've ticked all the boxes, I suppose, when it comes to finishing off the year. What was the feeling amongst the players the night of, if you can sort of recall back a little bit? Was it a sense of, hey, we just achieved something very, very special?
Yeah, well, it wasn't lost on us. All of the marketing people had done, the history makers.
Yeah.
We knew no one had done the coming from 5th before, so we understood the significance of it. I think there was a great deal of relief, that it was over. I said it was a long, difficult campaign, throughout the year, and as always, the jubilant, joyous crowd that comes back to Norwood Oval that night was just really quite.
KT, I'm trying to remember. Were you in one of the group with the balmy north is north and south is south, west is west, and we all know Norwood is best. Sung to the Mammy song, the balmy back. And that
I don't know.
Yeah,
one of Praddy's things.
Yes, it was Praddy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't remember all that sort of stuff, but I felt I was always a bit the same, always the same with these things. The joy I got was in the contest. What happened afterwards, the celebrations and all that sort of stuff, never really it wasn't important to me, to be honest. I always felt like it was job done, and enjoy the moment and the achievement. But it wasn't. The party wasn't what it was about for me.
Now, you were probably ahead. Let's be honest, KT, you're non-drinker. You were probably ahead of your time a bit there. I think that's more the thought process probably now than back then, where it was a big drinking culture. Football, you won. You think when you, and let's be honest, a certain number 7, and you weren't alone on this, but the night when we beat Western Fitzroy, the night back in the hotel in Melbourne, that was an education for a lot of us that night. Yes, and I think that was the thing. You were ahead of your time. You'd play. You did beach sessions before other people did back then, and you were the non-drinker and went home. So I think you were just ahead of your time in a lot of ways.
Oh, mate, I don't know, but that was certainly my style, and so I was, I was very happy just to watch everyone else, do their thing and sneak off, pretty early in the night and get out of there. But it was a very special period, so it was good.
Then 85, mate, you take out your first club champion.
Yeah, I had three runner-up, and these things are nice, certainly nice to have. I remember having a pretty good year that year, and it was probably the year where I felt my game came together, and I reckon it was probably feeding off the confidence of having played well in a big game, in the grand final the year before, and you go in, absolutely. You have a great pre-season, and you feel as if your game is in really good order, and I remember feeling that way pretty much the whole year, and so it was one of those things. We started to see. I think we might have started to see the emergence of North Adelaide and Glenelg at this point.
Yeah, it was.
And so they were pretty good teams, and but I remember being disappointed that we weren't more competitive that year.
Now, Keith, when you decided to go to Fitzroy, you could have gone to Fitzroy or Collingwood, whatever. In hindsight, easy in hindsight to go, why did I do that? But back then it made sense. David Parkin as Fitzroy coach, they were, they'd been contending and looked to be a pretty good young side. And, of course, you wouldn't have known the other problems there. And I do think back at that photo at your house with Gary Pert and Paul Roos, trying to think who else is in that photo on your TV there. So the Fitzroy days do hold special memories, but geez, it must have been such a challenge with so many things with Fitzroy, KT.
What were the facilities like?
Well, again, I was naive. I didn't realise what I was walking into. They did a great job not preparing me for that. They were substandard. They were moving around from. We're out Albert Lake, training at Albert Lake, which is South Melbourne's old ground, and we'd been playing at Princess Park. They just moved away from Junction Oval. So behind the scenes, there was a lot of
chaos,
of trouble, a lot of chaos. But on field, what I was exposed to was David Parkin, a really high quality professional sports science team, players like Ruse, Pert, Osborne,
that's what I was trying to think of.
Conlon, Matty Rendell, Leon Harris, Laurie Serafini. There was, Matty Armstrong, Alistair Lynch, Rossi Lyon. It was a great players, right? And and they'd come third in '86. I went in '87, and they'd come third in '86. Collingwood had come 12th and had just taken a 20% pay cut.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But they had just appointed Lee Matthews.
Yeah.
And so, again, sliding door moments. At that point, the Fitzroy Football Club started its decline into ultimate sort of ruin, and Collingwood started their resurgence. And so it was in that period. But I've got no regrets. I made really close friends. Through that period, I learned a lot about finding another level. I remember my first month at the club thinking I always prided myself on being well prepared, and I was a mile behind. There was no way I could compete as from a physical point of view. And so my style is to just work harder, and then I got ill. I'm a major iron deficiency because I worked myself too hard, and I didn't. That wasn't diagnosed, so I had no energy, and so I struggled. But in the first year, I think I was I was in the top 10 players for the year, but it was hard. Everything was hard, but it taught me how to perform against adversity, and that was something that I took with me for my whole career beyond footy, and it taught me about striving to another level. Actually, realizing, because I think I went there thinking I was at or close to the level. I was playing state footy, and but I hadn't even allowed myself to think that that there could be such a difference. And I never made that mistake again. I always have been keen on trying to understand and search for and look for best practice in everything that I'm doing, because it's out there. Someone's doing it better, and you just got to keep that mindset.
And that certainly came through in your administrative career, which obviously we'll get to. So probably Fitzroy, as you said, was a bit disappointing in that with various things. But as you said, you made lifelong friendships, which is what, in the end, is what sport's all about. It doesn't matter what level we're playing. So you then decide to come back to Norwood.
Was that partly because of the sacking of David Parkin?
It was almost entirely about that, because at this stage I had realised that he was the professional person holding it together. And even though we were wavering a little bit on field, I felt without him that the whole thing could easily collapse. And I was still at a stage of my career where I wanted to be playing finals footy. And I just didn't see how that could happen. And as it turned out, that was true. They weren't ever competitive again.
No. And Parkin, he is fascinating. You can just sit there and listen to David Parkin talk for hours. He's a fascinating person in terms of, he's certainly an all-time legend in terms of the game as a player and a coach. But in terms of philosopher and listening to him speak, he's you can argue he's number one in that regard. So yeah.
Hey, boys, can I just stop us there? So this has gone.
Gone a lot longer than we intended.
Yes.
Go on, KT.
Yeah, that's yes. And I've got a call that I've got to go on. In about five minutes time. So, do you want to? I'm very happy to pick it up and go again.
Yeah, that makes
on another
sense.
Day,
Yeah,
if you want to do that,
definitely.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Yeah, no, it is. No, that makes sense, KT, because we'll go on from where we are. We'll finish your playing career, and we'll split that up anyway. So that makes perfect sense. I'll message you, and we'll work out when we've booked in Greg Edwards to do next week anyway. But I'll work it out with you. I'll message you back and forth, and we'll work that out. But
no worries.
That makes sense. Yeah,
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. I'm happy to go through it. But there's still you'll probably want to talk about the Port Adelaide stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's give that its due course. So let's do it again later.
No, definitely, not a problem at all.
Good on you.
Greatly appreciated, KT.
No worries. Okay.
Right. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Bye.
Bye.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe.